In our previous episode, The Bruises of Rejection, we explored the wounds rejection leaves behind. We spoke about abandonment, feeling unwanted, the invisible scars that shape the way we see ourselves and the way we relate to others. But today we're taking this conversation one step further because rejection doesn't only wound us. Sometimes it teaches us an identity that was never ours to carry. And if we're not careful, a painful experience becomes an identity and a temporary wound becomes a permanent label. Welcome to Conversations That Matter, a space where we have real, honest conversations about faith, healing, emotional well-being, relationships, purpose, and personal growth. A space where difficult truths are explored with compassion. A space where pain is acknowledged, healing is encouraged, and transformation becomes possible. My name is Nwabisa Kanjo, and I am honored to share this space with you. Today's episode is called When Rejection Becomes Your Identity. Many of us have experienced moments where people made us feel unwanted, made us feel unimportant, not good enough, too much, or difficult to love. The problem is not only what happened, but when we begin to believe those experiences define us. Today, I want us to explore one important question. Who would you be if you stopped defining yourself by what happened to you? Who would you be without rejection? Who would you be without betrayal? Who would you be without abandonment? Because sometimes the hardest part of healing is separating your identity from your pain. For many years, I carried rejection as though it was my name. Not because anyone explicitly told me that I was unworthy, but because repeated experiences taught me that lesson. When rejection happens often enough, it stops feeling like an event. It starts feeling like a description of who you are. And many people spend years carrying identities that they never chose. Children naturally make meaning of their experiences. When a child experiences rejection, they don't usually think that something is wrong with the people around them. They often conclude that something is wrong with them as the children. They are not enough, maybe they are difficult to love, or they must be the problem. And those conclusions often follow us into adulthood. How much of the way you see yourself today was decided by a younger version of you trying to make sense of pain? Over time, rejection creates invisible labels that we put on ourselves. Those are not labels that others paste on us, but what we create based on repeated experiences. You may not say them out loud, but you carry them. Maybe your labels look something like, I'm not enough, I'm too much, I don't belong, nobody chooses me, people always leave, my feelings don't matter. The danger is that eventually we stop questioning these beliefs and these self-created labels. We simply accept them as the truth. One of the most dangerous things about rejection is that it feels convincing. The pain feels so real that the story attached to the pain feels real too. But feelings are not always facts. Just because someone rejected you does not mean you are rejectable or unworthy to be accepted. Just because someone left does not mean you are unworthy of staying for or unworthy to be chosen. Many adults are still responding to identities they developed years ago. The person who believes they are not enough may become a perfectionist, they might become a people pleaser, an overachiever, and someone who constantly seeks validation. Not because they are ambitious, but because they are trying to prove what rejection convinced them was never true. We stay in unhealthy relationships because we're afraid nobody else will choose us. We avoid opportunities because we're afraid to fail. We keep quiet because we're afraid of criticism. We shrink ourselves to avoid being rejected again. Rejection doesn't only affect how we feel, it affects how we behave. Many people assume confidence comes from achievement, but some of the most successful people still feel inadequate. You can earn the degree, get the promotion, build the business, buy the house, and still secretly feel unworthy. Because external success does not heal an internal identity wound. One of the hidden effects of rejection is that it can make achievement feel like a survivor. Instead of achieving because you enjoy growth, you begin achieving to prove something. You tell yourself, once I get the promotion, I'll finally feel good enough. Once I lose weight, they'll accept me. Once I make enough money, people will value me. Once I succeed, no one will reject me again. But every achievement only brings temporary relief because the wound was never about success. The wound was about worth. And no amount of achievement can permanently convince you of something that rejection convinced you was false. If your identity is built on proving your value, you will spend your entire life chasing the next accomplishment because every victory will eventually stop feeling like enough. Have you ever noticed how some people achieve something remarkable and yet immediately move the goalpost? They graduate and it's not enough. They get promoted, it's not enough. They buy the house, it's not enough. They build the business, it's still not enough. Not because they are ungrateful, but because they are trying to heal an emotional wound with external accomplishments. The problem is that achievement can improve your circumstances, but it cannot rewrite your identity. Healing begins when you stop asking, what do I need to accomplish to be worthy? And start believing, I am already worthy whether I accomplish or not. Rejection says, someone did not choose me, and shame says, there must be something wrong with me. And that is where many people get stuck. The experience becomes personal. The event becomes an identity, and the wound becomes self-definition. This is one of the most important truths in healing. You are not the abandonment. You are not the betrayal. You are not the neglect. You are not the criticism. And you are not the rejection. Those things, they happened to you, but they are not who you are. There is a big difference. Healing begins when you challenge the stories rejection taught you. Ask yourself, is this belief true? Who told me this? Because you may find that you are holding on to a pain or to a statement that was told to you by somebody who does not even matter anymore. What evidence supports this? And what evidence contradicts it? Sometimes healing starts with questioning beliefs you've carried your entire life. Instead of saying, I was rejected, therefore I am unworthy, what if you said, I experienced rejection, but I'm still worthy? And instead of saying, people left, therefore I am unlovable, what if you said, people left because they had limitations, not because I lacked value? That shift changes everything. A healthy identity says, I have worth even when people disagree with me. I have value even when people leave. I deserve respect. My voice matters. My feelings matter. My existence is not dependent on someone else's approval. That is the freedom rejection tries to steal from us. Healing is not becoming someone new. It is remembering who you were before pain convinced you otherwise. Before the labels, before the criticism, before the rejection, and before the shame. The healthiest version of you is not someone you create. It is someone you rediscover. I want to leave you with this question today. What labels have you been carrying that don't belong to you? What identities were formed in pain? What beliefs were born out of rejection? And what would happen if you finally laid them down? If rejection has become a part of your story, remember this. You are not your wounds. You are not your disappointments. You are not the people who failed to see your value. Rejection may have happened to you, but it does not get to define you. Only you decide who you become. Your identity is bigger than your pain. Your value is way older than your rejection. Your worth existed before anyone failed to recognize it. And healing begins the moment you start asking, what happened to me? And when you start asking, who am I beyond what happened to me? Thank you for joining me on another episode of Conversations That Matter. If today's conversation spoke to your heart, please like the episode, share it with someone who may need it, and subscribe to our channel for future conversations. And remember, rejection is something that happened to you. It is not who you are. Your worth is not determined by who left. Your value is not determined by who failed to choose you. And your identity is not determined by your wounds. Until next time, stay grounded in faith, choose healing, choose truth, and most importantly, choose yourself.